If your default setting is no matter what I do, I'm never good enough, obviously we're going to continue working on that. Okay, cool. But when you do make a mistake, don't delude yourself into thinking you didn't, because that doesn't actually help you build the muscles to take responsibility.
If you don't believe in yourself, taking responsibility is just painful. There's no benefit. Because when you take responsibility, the value of taking responsibility is now you can do something about it.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed yesterday's episode. Episode number 1636 is resentment building in your relationship. Today, for episode number 1637, sometimes we are the problem. I shared a little bit about this in the meetup, but I was on a podcast the other day, and in my bio, it says some people find rock bottom, other people, or I had the misfortune of finding out that rock bottom has a basement. And the person who was interviewing me said, it's not funny that you went through it, but I really like the way that's phrased. Can you walk us through your rock bottom and then your rock bottom basement? And I talked about how my rock bottom moment was when my girlfriend and I at the time moved in together. We got a place together. From the outside looking in, I was the most quote-unquote successful. I had just competed in a bodybuilding show. My girlfriend was a model. I was making good money. All the things that you could quote-unquote want. And she ended up leaving me. And when she left me, my bills doubled because we were paying the bills together. And work got really slow. So I was thinking to myself, I have no idea how I'm going to do this. I have no clue how I'm going to do this. To the point where my landlord said he was going to take my ex to court if I missed any payments. And I said, that's not going to happen. We're going to be fine. I'll figure it out. But when she left, I would like to say I was so mature and I was so centered as a man that I accepted full responsibility and said, yeah, she wasn't getting what she needs from me and I probably dropped the ball. That's not the case. No. When she first left, I probably said, you're lost, girl. You're lost. What do you think? What are you even thinking? How dare you do that? How dare you? And I probably had a list of reasons like, it was for the best anyway because she was this and she was this and she was this and she was this. So when I was on the podcast, the person who was interviewing me said, well, it kind of sounds like she didn't really give you a chance to change, or she didn't give you a chance to improve, or she didn't give you a chance to work through it. And I said, honestly, I'm just telling as much of the story as I can in the limited time I have. I was the problem. I had my own junk I had to work through. I had my own issues I had to work through. Does she take a level of responsibility? Yes. But I would say I take at least 50%, if not more. That can be empowering. It can be empowering to say, you know what? Yeah, that's on me. You know what? The reason my last dream-chasing venture didn't work is because I didn't put enough effort in. Yeah, that's on me. The reason my last relationship didn't work because I didn't do the things I said I was going to do, that's on me. The reason my last diet didn't work, I didn't stick to it. I didn't do what I knew I was supposed to do. I kept letting myself down. That's on me. I want this to be from a place of empowerment, not a place of beat yourself up, especially if your default setting is to beat yourself up. But it is empowering to take responsibility for something you should take responsibility for, because if you don't take responsibility, you don't have any control over that thing in the future. And that is my goal for this episode today.
Personal responsibility is the most empowering thing, but it's also, in some ways, the hardest. I have a pyramid framework that I use in my coaching where at the very top, I'm very nasally today, by the way.
I was going to say, you sound like a grown-ass man.
I do.
If I closed my eyes, I probably wouldn't even know it was you. Who's this guy?
I hit puberty overnight.
Congratulations.
Thank you. You're welcome. It's been a long time coming. So the pyramid at the top has results, and then it has in the middle role. What role do you have to play? And then the bottom is responsibility. And so you have a result that you want. You want to lose X amount of weight. You want to have a great relationship. You want to build a business. You want to start a podcast, whatever it is. Insert whatever goal. Have a great career. The first part is responsibility. So you have to take responsibility first for everything that comes with that. and we've done an episode a while back on this, and I was talking to Amelia about this last night, this idea of I picture a mountain, and I picture the top of the mountain is what you want. And then the beautiful views along the way that you get to see are what you love. But there's certain things that you hate. So it's the want, love, hate framework. And so you want a great body. You love maybe
cheeseburgers.
You love cheeseburgers.
I do.
You love, maybe you do love exercise. Maybe you love HIIT training. Maybe you love weight training. Maybe. Not always, but maybe. And then what you hate is dieting. So for me, I'll just use me as an example. I want a great physique. I love exercising. Not always, but I would say I'm on the high end of loving exercising compared to most people. Weight training in particular. But I hate dieting. Hate it. Absolutely hate it. So I think that everything in life comes down to what we want forces us to take responsibility. So for example, Kevin, the situation with your ex, I want to articulate in a very practical way why it's beneficial for you to take that responsibility. And I think that in a way you couldn't take responsibility when you were in it because you were already so sad.
I would say so.
It's almost like you were protecting yourself from the truth of that. And you had to kind of villainize or she's crazy or whatever you said. I don't know if you said those words, but you kind of have to protect yourself. When you're already down and out and you're already at rock bottom, the last thing that you want to do is beat yourself up on top of that. And so I think a lot of people end up perpetuating rock bottom and get themselves stuck in the mud because they aren't taking responsibility for their part in it. Even though my last relationship wasn't great, I do take responsibility constantly for the fact that I was choosing that. I'm not even mad at her. I'm mad at myself. I'm mad at myself for not, and playfully behind the scenes, I'm a little bit mad at Kev for not being more honest with me. He's like, I tried to tell you, man. But the point is underneath all of it, I really am just mad at myself. I made a poor choice. I knew better and did nothing about it. I let my fears win. I didn't have the courage to speak up enough. I didn't have the courage to leave. I went back after I left. That's all decisions that I made. Can I really blame everyone else and everything else? And underneath that, from a practical perspective, why is it not useful to blame other things? The reason it's not useful is because if you honestly convince yourself that it wasn't you, then there's nothing you can do about it. Because if it wasn't you, there's nothing you can change. There's nothing you will change. If you're convinced that you lost your job or you lost that relationship because of someone else, and it had nothing to do with you whatsoever, you're not going to go to work on the thing that could improve. Now, can I guarantee that you have a 100% probability of achieving your dreams? No. But I can guarantee that your probability of achieving your goals and dreams is much higher if you take responsibility. And one of the things that I try to look for, particularly with NLU team members, but just people that I allow into my life, allow is probably the wrong word, people that I aspire to be around is a better phrasing, is how much responsibility do they take? How much personal responsibility do they take? Or are they always passing blame? Like, oh, that wasn't me. That wasn't on me. That was that person. That was that person. And I think that underneath all that, and this is where the empathy piece comes in, if you don't believe in yourself, taking responsibility is just painful. There's no benefit. Because when you take responsibility, the value of taking responsibility is now you can do something about it. But if you don't believe you can do anything about it, if you don't believe you can change your personality, or you don't believe you can get smarter, or you don't believe you can get stronger, or you don't believe you can make better choices, or you don't believe that you're good enough, or whatever it is, taking responsibility is just going to be, okay, not only am I stuck, but now I also am blaming myself for being stuck. And then what?
There's a big difference between taking ownership for something you did and taking ownership from something you think is an identity level thing that you are. There's a big difference. And see, that's why I think it was so hard for me at the time, because it wasn't something I did, it was who I was. It wasn't
It's who
Kev,
you thought you were, yeah.
It's who I thought I was. And I was in such a low, dark place that a lot of that was right. A lot of what she said was right. It wasn't It wasn't that we were fighting. It wasn't that we were arguing. It was the fact that I just was a shell of myself. I was just struggling. And I was an empty cup and I didn't have anything to give. And I was not trending in any specific, I'll say I wasn't trending in the correct direction, at least. But I also understand that might sound cold. Like, oh, somebody left you when you were down and out. It's like, yeah, but what was she supposed to do? Stick around and try to fix me? I don't know. She didn't sign up for that necessarily. So,
And is that her responsibility?
I think in part it can be if you decide you want it to be your responsibility. But it doesn't have to
her
be.
Fixing you is not a responsibility that I think she should take on, because if that's the case, then that can create a whole codependent thing going on. And
Yeah. It was definitely the right choice for sure.
At the time, what did you think though?
At the time I thought all the things. I villainized for sure. Yeah, at the time I villainized because I took it very personally because it wasn't like something I did. It was who I was or who I thought I was. I took it personally. And I think that's what made me the saddest was it made me question who's ever going to love me. Like, who's ever going to love Kevin? How could anybody love me after this? Like the depths that I've gotten to. How could anybody ever love me? That was the hardest part for me. But that faded in time when I started. I think there's a part of it where when you're down, sometimes you just want to stay down and feel it. At least that's it for me. Sometimes when I'm sad, I just want to be sad for a while. I'm okay with it. I just let me be sad for a minute. And I think I was probably like a month where I was just down. I was just down and out. And then after that, it was like, all right, it's time to emerge from this cave. And I started meeting people, and I started going out, and I started hanging out with my friends more, and work picked up, and I got super busy. And then, if anything, I learned a lot about myself, and that became the new foundation for whatever the next thing was going to be. And
NLU listener, what is happening? I just wanted to jump in here and let you know if you want to get to the next level faster, we have a free virtual monthly meetup at the first Thursday of every month, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. You can connect with like-minded people and become a bigger part of this amazing global community. The link to register will be in the show notes.
So in retrospect, that's the hard thing is that what you're going through right now might quite literally be something you say you're grateful for in 2 years. But you don't know in the moment. If you knew in the moment, it would be like a cheat code. You'd never have to worry about anything. But I guess you can just try to figure out what is the positive in. If there's 99 negatives, can you just find one positive? One potential positive. That would be my next level nugget. I guess it's not super connected to the topic. It is, but it's not. And then this is the other thing I would say. If you, by default, tend to beat yourself up, what I think we try to do is we try to go so far to the other end where we don't ever beat ourselves up. What I'm saying is just admit what's real. Don't beat yourself up if you don't make a mistake. If your default setting is no matter what I do, I'm never good enough, obviously we're going to continue working on that. Okay, cool. But when you do make a mistake, don't delude yourself into thinking you didn't, because that doesn't actually help you build the muscles to take responsibility. Mm-hmm. The best way to learn how to take responsibility is to start by taking responsibility on small things that you can handle.
What is someone's responsibility, in your opinion? Like, what is their... what was your responsibility in that versus hers?
My responsibility is to meet my own needs. My responsibility is to... I think my responsibility is to do the best I can with what I have. And if I'm struggling and there's a person that I'm in a relationship with, to talk to them about it. And just put it out there and get an idea of how they feel and how they're feeling when I'm going through it, and then re-engaging from there. Last night, it's been a rough week. It's been a rough year, honestly. Everything's good.
2024 has been tough.
It's been heavy. So I told Taryn last night, I had finished, she had just gotten home, And I said, sometimes I feel bad that when I'm overwhelmed, my natural tendency is to like go be alone. Sometimes I feel bad because I know I'm not thinking about what you need in that moment. And we had a really good conversation and we ended up spending time together. But I said, but sometimes that's just what I need. I just need to be alone. That's just how I process. And she said, no, I always want you to do what you need. But it was just an important thing for me to own that because I just want to make sure that she understands that it's not a her thing. It's just that's just how I operate. I like to be alone. I like to think. This morning I woke up at 3:30 on a Saturday by accident and I was watching old YouTube videos of us. Like that's how I go to Nostalgiaville, and that's kind of how I heal. So I don't know. I don't know if I have a good answer to the question. I think my responsibility is to stay in alignment with what I say I want to the best of my ability. And when I feel myself drifting out of alignment, I ask the people around me for help. It's not your responsibility to ask me how I'm doing. It's my responsibility to say, hey, man, can we chat about something? But I also understand that takes a lot of courage. So it's not an easy answer for sure.
And then the question underneath that, I know we got to jump, but the question underneath that is, why is it so hard to share that when you're down? Why is it so hard to?
Because it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing, depending on what you're going through.
That's got to be one of humanity's biggest problems, right there. One of my clients audioed me. Shout out to this client. You'll know who I'm referring to if you're listening. But I had a client who audioed me and said that statistically, she was doing research that men in America in particular, but I think this is probably any large economy, they don't feel like they can share their struggles. And she said something along the lines of, and this is based on actual research, my regurgitation of it is not, so keep that in mind, please. Men suffer because they don't think they should suffer. And then they don't share the suffering, so they suffer in silence, and then they end up suicidal. Mm. And when she audioed me, it actually reminded me of you when you were saying that you had that moment where it's like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
I think that it's almost like we have this belief that we're not supposed to suffer. And when we are suffering, we don't want to share that because then we look like we're less than.
Yeah.
And that perpetuates it, makes it even worse. It's like it's a whole thing, especially, and I think with men, it's our pride that just gets.
Well, someone's got to go first. That's the hard part. Is somebody has to go first in the relationship. The vulnerability, I think one of the reasons it doesn't happen is because somebody has to initiate it. A tennis match, somebody has to serve.
Yeah.
But if nobody serves, you just stand on opposite ends of the court and nothing happens. Somebody has to go first. And when somebody goes first, it gives unconscious permission to the other person to go. Maybe not to the same degree, but that's why I think you and I work together so well, is because you probably were vulnerable with me at the beginning. You were probably vulnerable with me before I was vulnerable with you. And then it was like, oh, okay, I can talk about that with Alan. I'm never going to get made fun of for crying in front of Alan. That's why you and I have such a unique bond. We cry together all the time. That's like nothing.
Yeah.
I don't even think about it. I cried yesterday in front of you, I think. Not 24 hours ago.
On the huddle a little bit.
Well, and a little bit yesterday when you and I were talking behind the scenes.
Yeah. That's got to be one of the most detrimental things in the entire world, is just not wanting to ever be seen down. Like, it's not okay to not be okay. That's got to be so detrimental. There's no way that's... I mean, I have a little bit of that, even being, I say, on my way to well-being. I'm a little sick, obviously. You can hear my nasally. It's just, I want to be dialed in. I want to be better. I want to be capable. I want to be strong. I want to be on point. But sometimes you have to temporarily lower your standards, and that sucks. It sucks. I messaged you today. I said, dude, struggle bus. Not going to be on time. No chance. Nope. And obviously we love being up more than we love being down, but I also know that the ups are created by what you learn in the downs. And so the last thing I'll share here is I used to have this funny graphic that I'll always go back to. I sent to my executive admin back in the day. Shout out to Amy. And she was really down and she was in a really dark place. And I drew her a little. Part of this was drawing her this on Zoom just to cheer her up. The other part was it was really practical. And essentially I drew her down in the deep dark hole as a little stick figure and me at the top saying, hey, everything's going to be okay. The tools and the skills that you develop trying to climb out of this hole are also going to build a skyscraper. And then on the right side of the image, there's a skyscraper next to Amy. And then she's shouting back to me saying, hey, thank you so much for believing in me when I was down. And I always say that you can think of every rock bottom moment in your past. You can too, Kev. And you can think of how bad that was. I remember when I first failed my first class at college, I wasted $5,000, didn't have any money, brutal. And I found a way to not only survive that, but then thrive after. And I think that's what builds you into a strong, well-rounded human being. I don't think you can. I always talk about the 3 movies. The first movie is, award ceremony, no struggle, no struggle, no struggle, all success, bigger award ceremony at the end. Terrible movie. And then you've got the second movie, which is struggle bus, trauma, 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 tragedy, tragedy, tragedy. And then at the end, it's still struggle bus, tragedy, no success. And then the narrative that we love as human beings, books, movies, you name it, is the hero's journey, which is rags to riches, which is make something of yourself through trials and tribulations. And when you're in the trials and tribulations, it doesn't stop sucking. It does just kind of suck. But when you're in it, you can kind of go, okay, how do I make the most of this? How do I have an attitude of gratitude within the suffering, within the struggle bus? And then how do I climb out of this? And what I learned climbing out of this, so I have one client who climbed out of debt, and now he knows finance. Why? Why does he know finance? Does he know finance because he took some course? Or does he know finance because he went $50,000 into debt and then got to rock bottom and realized I'm screwed and I have to climb out of this hole? And now he's doing very well. He's going to buy a home. You learn after rock bottom. That's where most of the growth is. And I wish I do. I genuinely do. I'm Mr. Try to proactively learn. I'm with it. But I think there's certain things you can't learn without rock bottom.
We talked about that one of the episodes prior this week. I don't remember which one it was. All right, last thing before we go. I put up an Instagram story. This is kind of across the board. My Instagram stories that are the saddest usually get the most love. Because I think people can resonate with that. When I bought my new car, I got love for sure. Not as much as when I say, hey, I'm having a shitty day. And I'd rather just admit it than pretend. I tried to do a video the other day. I had my phone up and I was like, I'm gonna do something inspirational. I tried like 3 times. I just didn't have it. I didn't have it. So that's the video I did. It's like I wanted to do something powerful. I got nothing. And some days that's okay. Some days you're not gonna have 10s every day. You're not gonna have 10s most days. If you get a 10...
You could have egoed up and faked it, but that...
I don't want to. Yeah,
I know. I'm not saying you should.
No, I know. I know. Watch your tone. Hey, watch your tone with me.
Deep voice. Know it, obviously. Of course. Deep voice, Alan. Very nice. I have those moments, too. I was on with Jerry Ann yesterday, and it was one of the first times where... Because she's been doing this awesome detox thing, so she's been up and down physically, energy-wise. And I was like, oh, wow, I can't match your energy at all.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that must be how people feel about me all the time. Like, I'm always just on, So it's perspective when you're down, too. It's just like, oh, okay. Yeah, I must be always going. People must be like, what the hell?
Well, it helps with gratitude. Perspective helps with gratitude. All right, we got to go because we have to record another one. We don't have to do anything. We get to. How dare you, Kevin?
Nice
You son of a bee. If you have not yet gotten your tickets to Next Level Live 2024, please do so virtual or in person. We will have the link in the show notes. And if you're struggling, if right now you feel like you're going through something and you can't figure it out, reach out. Reach out to myself, reach out to Alan. If you're looking for coaching, reach out to Alan. But either of us, I pinged someone yesterday that was in group coaching either 1 round ago or 2 rounds ago. And I said, hey, how's everything? And they said, I'm kind of struggling. I said, anything I can do to help? And they said, no, right now I'm just processing, but I'll let you know. Cool. Awesome. I'm always a message away.
Even if you're not looking for coaching, if you're struggling, reach out and let's connect.
I thought you were going to go longer than that, so I took a sip of my coffee. Tomorrow, for episode number 1638, one type of person to avoid. Not as negative as it sounds, I promise. Hopefully it'll be a somewhat positive episode. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Talk to you soon. Next Level Nation.